Hey everyone, welcome back to Build. I'm your host, Brittany Jones-Cooper, and today I'm sitting down with Michael Longoria. The singer and actor has appeared on Broadway and Hairspray and Jersey Boys, but now he's singing us home for the holidays with his new Christmas album, Merry Christmas, Darling. Today, Longoria will perform a few festive Christmas songs, but first, he's gonna sit down with me to discuss the new album. Please help me welcome Michael Longoria.
Thanks for being here. Oh my gosh.
How are you? I love that you're bringing the festive Christmas songs.
I'm
ready.
so excited to do it too. I feel like not only does the world need it, but I really needed Christmas when I started this. It was originally going to be a different kind of album, but in the summertime when I started it, the Christmas songs just kept creeping in on my playlist. So it just kind of informed my whole journey and made itself a Christmas album.
It's such a vibe, it's such a mood, and so it's like I can understand why you're like being led that way.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, I wanted to take a different angle though. Instead of just traditional classical Christmas songs, which I love, which get you in the mood, I kind of wanted to take a romantic angle and kind of take it from like the lonely Romeo's perspective, alone at Christmas, waiting in a snowstorm, wanting to be with the love of their life, and just can't,
And I heard that was a little inspired by your own love story.
Absolutely. Well, there's a song on that I wrote on there that I co-wrote with my musical director called "Marry Me This Christmas," and it's a winter love wedding song, wedding Christmas song, and it's written on a specific experience about how I met my husband. And we met at a Christmas party. It was a few years ago, well, more than a few years ago. But at this wonderful Christmas party, we were in online romance, and this was our opportunity to meet each other face to face and see if our profiles matched, what we'd been, putting out there. And of course, he was more gorgeous than his profile. And the relationship turned out to be way deeper and way more meaningful. And I think primarily because it started online, because it was more, we had to get to know each other, with a huge distance. And so this song, Marry Me This Christmas, is kind of in that world. I wanted to capture the world of what that romance was and is, and the journey that it took.
And you guys just celebrated 10 years together, right?
10 years together, but our first anniversary ever of being wed. So thank you so much.
Yes, I actually know his husband. We went to high school together.
Yeah, oh my gosh. That's
like a full circle moment. I love it.
Omaha.
Go Nebraska. So let's
go
talk
Big Red.
Yes, go Big Red.
He taught me.
Oh, good. He taught you well. Good job. Good job. So let's talk about the name of the album, Merry Christmas, Darling. Am I supposed to go Merry Christmas, Darling?
Well, it depends on it depends on where you're at. If you're at a gay club, it's Merry Christmas, Darling. But no, originally it was meant to be like I wanted to be a gift from the character of this Romeo to his love. So like all these songs are songs of yearning and wanting to be with somebody in the cold and when it's snowing out. And so the Darling was kind of just a little romantic word of it. It could have been Merry Christmas, baby, Merry Christmas, lover, or whatever, anything. But Darling kind of captured what the love is of it, of the meaning behind the album, but it also is a very period word, which brings me to the whole album is a 60s vibe. I tour with the Midtown Men. I did Jersey Boys on Broadway. Anybody see Jersey Boys?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I tour with the original guys, Christian Hoff, Daniel Reichert, and J. Robert Spencer. We are in a group called the Midtown Men. We tour all over the country singing 1960s music. And I've been doing that for about 9 years. I started that right before I met my husband. So, and during that time period, the whole that business and the relationship both grew at the same time. So we're both reaching our 10-year anniversary. Me and my husband, and also me and the Midtown Men. And that's like a marriage in itself. You're married to being on the road with your best friends and singing this great catalog of music. But because of that experience and because of my Broadway experience in 60s music, this album was kind of informed by that voice. And so all the songs got to have that little flair of the 60s.
And those guys make an appearance on the album, right?
Yes, actually, yeah. They joined me to sing a song called Little Saint Nick. And it's a Beach Boys classic. We take on all the other competition of the Four Seasons who we played on Broadway and Jersey Boys. We take on the Beach Boys, the Beatles, and all those guys. But I wanted to use this Christmas album to have an opportunity to also show another side of me that has been, existing and coexisting with my own voice.
So there's a lot of amazing songs on here. Some we know, some are new. But let's talk about some of these classics and why you decided to put them on your album. One being like "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas." Everybody knows that song, but why was that special for you?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you picked that song to talk about, because that one like is the song that, you know, everybody assumes, oh yeah, I know this one, so you see it on the list. You're like, oh great, I'm familiar with what this song means, and that's how I thought as well. But when I started to research it and being like, okay, what is this really about? It's like this really sad song about being alone at Christmas, and I started to kind of look at it in a more positive light. Like, how can we make this song that's about being alone and next year will be better than what it is now? How do you make this more of an inspirational take? The way that I came around to it was, have yourself a merry little Christmas. The whole phrase, have yourself, me, right? So if you're alone, the most important thing that you can do for yourself is to have yourself a merry little Christmas, and really look in the mirror and see who needs your love the most, and it's yourself. So I kind of took this song, "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas," to mean that on this album. Like at the end of the Romeo's journey, there is an audio journey that I made up. And that I feel when I sing it. And by the time you get to that moment in the album, you kind of realize, okay, he's been wanting love and wanting to be with somebody this whole time. And by the time this happens in the album, you realize he's okay to be alone, and it's okay to have a Merry Christmas by yourself.
I love that when an artist puts some thought in behind the track list and the order. So that was really important for you to make sure that there was like a feeling, a vibe throughout it.
Yeah, well, I think it might be the musical theater queen in me, like needing a storyline and needing a character. But I think it's good that that's my history, because it kind of informs not only like the story arc of the album, but each song is a story in itself. It's a 3-act play within the verse, the chorus, and the bridge. And each time I start a song, it's like it's starting a new play. I'm in a new scenario, and all of a sudden it's a new lover I'm talking about, a new experience that broke me or that made me, you know. And that's kind of the joy of doing these songs now after being on Broadway, is that I'm approaching it kind of as an actor as well. I'm really living the character.
Another one that's a modern classic is "All I Want for Christmas Is You," obviously made famous by Mariah Carey.
I mean, I always say, can you have Christmas without Mariah? I mean, I can. And in fact, when Mariah's on, it's Christmas all the time, right? I grew up in the 1990s, and I didn't have access to like a CD player or anything like that. But what I did have access to was free radio. So on the radio, Mariah Carey was living her reign, you know, right when she came out. And during that time, I was studying to be a singer and going to high school for the arts and taking long bus rides and listening to these radio waves of Mariah singing. And something about her specifically kind of spoke to me as a young artist or a young kid. Maybe it was the lyrics that she was talking about, because those songs are real deep, like, you know, emotions. First of all, one's called Emotions, so all you feel are emotions. But and then just like obviously the stratosphere of her vocal range was inspiring, but primarily I felt her. I feel like I felt what she was feeling in the studio, and that's always been my goal as a recording artist, is to like be by myself in a little box and give my entire being, my heart, my soul, everything out on the line, as if it was just me, which it is. And then somebody out there is gonna get this album in the middle of wherever, Nebraska, and they're gonna hopefully feel what I was feeling. Not just hear the song and be like, oh, this is a great song, or, oh, that's a hot note, but like actually feel like how I felt when Mariah was singing to me, like, you know, feel something. That's the goal for me as an artist.
And that's, I mean, what a perfect album to do it, because Christmas is such an emotional time for somebody. So to know that that was your intention going in makes me even more excited to listen. And so you mentioned the "Marry Me at Christmas" one, but are there other original songs as well?
That's the only original song. Okay. Yeah, and it was a last minute addition. You know, originally I had just this whole storyline of the Romeo. And kind of ending on having yourself a Merry Little Christmas. But then the final song is "Marry Me This Christmas." And I kind of wanted it to be like a wink to say, hey, this Romeo found romance. This Romeo has a happy ending. And it's a Christmas love happy ending. So
your vocal range is so impressive. I'm always curious when I'm hearing you hit those high notes, like, how do you protect your voice? What do you do to keep it? Because you're singing so regularly, I know it probably gets exhausting.
Well, you just say a little prayer. No, it's a lot of it is just hydration, you know, like a lot of big Broadway stars when I was first coming up and asking, what do I do? You know, oh my gosh, I'm going to get tired, or, you know, doing 8 shows a week. The biggest advice they said was hydrate. You know, drink water, water, and nothing else. And during that time, I realized that's it. It's literally about having full hydration in your body, and also just trusting that you've done all the work. I mean, hopefully you have, and which I have. I've been doing this since May. This album. Trust that you've done all the hard work already, and that today is just a celebration and a sharing moment to share all that emotional journey that you went through. And here's a glorious celebration of now it's out there in the world for somebody to experience it,
And you've done so much. I mean, obviously your Broadway credits are amazing. You released an album in 2016. Now you have this album.
Broadway Brick by Brick.
Yeah. So, I mean, it feels like from the outside, you've accomplished everything that somebody would want to accomplish. But what is kind of next? Like, what is maybe a goal that you have?
Well, it's funny. It's like, it's probably the artist in me. Like, I will never feel like I've done enough. And I feel like even with this album, I feel like I'm catching up. I feel like I need to keep doing more and more and more because there's years that I didn't do an album. So I just feel like I'm going to be feeling that way for a while. I'm going to keep running and keep recording albums. 2019 is going to be full of me in the recording studio for sure. I have a lot of what do they say, irons in the fire, and it's all creative and it's all. I'm no longer waiting around for somebody to make the project for me, which is what a lot of us as actors have to do. Hopefully I can find a part that's right for me and audition for it and be at the right place at the right time. But ultimately, realistically, that's not going to happen, especially for somebody like me. So I feel like I need to start seeking out opportunities on my own. And this was one of them. This was an opportunity where I had a specific idea and I wanted to get it out there. And the only way to do it was really to just do it,
Is there a dream role on Broadway that you would like to take on?
Well, I mean, it would have to be like in one of those special shows where they do like you could play any part and it doesn't matter what race you are, what gender you are. But if so, I would love to play Aida. From the Heather Headley version, because the reason I say that is when I was at NYU as a college student, one of my first jobs as a kid, trying to study and also like work study or whatever, was selling programs at Aida on Broadway, and I literally, it was the first time that I saw a long run, and I was like, oh wait, a show isn't just a weekend? Because when I was in high school for the arts, it was like leading up to the one weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and that was it. And this was like a full run, and I was working there for 4 months. So I saw the variations of performances, the understudies going on, Heather Headley's different wig changes that ended up not making it until opening night. So I think Aida was the first time that I got to see what a Broadway run would look like, and so that's why I jokingly say Aida, but we'll see what kind of parts come my way.
Oh, I'm all for like colorblind, genderblind casting. I'm like, just pick the best person for the job.
Yeah, right.
Why
exactly.
not?
Be creative.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, it's not like that in the commercial world, right? They're like, you have to sell tickets.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Like, have you seen my hair? It's amazing. I know we have some audience questions before you perform,
wow, yes.
So let's jump to them really quick. Who do we have first?
Hi. Congrats on your new album.
Thank you so much.
So who are some of your favorite musicians at the moment?
At the moment, I like Halsey. And Mariah Carey keeps bringing new stuff all the time. Ariana Grande, I love her range and her voice and what she's trying to put out there. I think I'm very old school, so I like to listen to a lot of old 60s pop guy groups to get inspiration, and I feel like that kind of colors my current performance.
We know you from Jersey Boys, but you were into that sort of music before, right? Like you grew up watching West Side Story.
Well, yeah, my mom, she calls them the oldies, and she would be cleaning the house and listening to these songs by Frankie Valli, the Mamas and Papas, and I would, I didn't realize then, but I was learning these songs and mastering them as a child, and then eventually, years later, I would call on them to audition for Hairspray. Hairspray was my Broadway debut, and it was all 60s about that time period. And the first song that I sang there was "Run Around Sue" by Dion. And that was a song that I had been. Everything is like cause and effect. Yeah. That was a song that I was rehearsing as a singing waiter at Ellen's Stardust Diner in Times Square. It was like part of my repertoire. So I was learning and singing all these 60s and 50s doo-woppy songs, and then my first major audition was Hairspray, which was this 60s doo-woppy kind of show. So all these things kind of like prepared me for that world.
And that's such good advice too for, I think, young performers, that like everything kind of builds on it, and that you should just kind of stay the course.
And also don't just limit yourself to one kind of genre. I mean, I grew up singing mariachi music, Spanish music that I didn't even really understand the words to, but I felt, because all those songs, and I don't know if anybody knows, mariachi music in Spanish, it's like gut-wrenching, like, I lost my lover and somebody took him, that kind of, it's like, the worst emotional tragedies of your life in a song is what mariachi is usually. So I grew up learning how to feel these songs first, and then Mariah Carey was on the radio mixing with that, and then all of a sudden Broadway. So it was a big mixture of cool, fun things.
I love that. And one more question.
Hello.
Hi.
So I have an online question.
Sure.
It is, how do you get someone in Christmas spirit who is not a Christmassy person?
I think that's a great, a lot of times what happens to me is when I go shopping or when I'm walking around at this specific time, I don't think you can help but to kind of like be a little bit lifted when you hear the sounds of Christmas at the shops and stuff like that. But I would say like listen to these love songs, like go ahead and cry, like Last Christmas. There's a song on my album Last Christmas, George Michael's song originally, and every time I hear that song, it's like oh my God, I'm feeling emotionally sad, and I go there and I let myself feel that way. And it's about Christmas and allowing myself to feel sad at Christmas. And then once I have that cry, I'm like, okay, great. Now I feel amazing because you allowed yourself that moment.
That is my favorite Christmas song, where he's like, and the very next day, you gave it away.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, every time.
How could he give it away? The next day? You couldn't wait a day?
Right?
Jeez.
Like, can we wait until the new year?
He
or
wanted to wait for
something?
those sales to happen.
Right away.
To return that.
He just
little
wanted
coat.
the gift. He just wanted the gift.
Okay, receipt.
Well, I'm so excited to hear your album, Merry Christmas, Darling. Guys, it's available now in stores, but stick around because Michael Longoria will perform some of the songs from his Merry Christmas, Darling album when we come back, all right?
So excited.